Hello everyone, welcome to Property Ponderings. My name is Craig Nicol from Nicol Buyer Advisory in Melbourne, Australia, where we help people buy and renovate their properties. With over 15 years of property experience as an agency owner, property investor, renovator, town planner, salesperson, auctioneer and buyer's agent, I'm here to help you make better property buying decisions and build the future that you're chasing. Today we're going to be exploring the government grants and assistance programs available to first-time buyers in Victoria. Navigating the property market as a first-time buyer can be challenging, but the good news is that there are several financial aids designed to ease the process. We'll walk through the most important grants and schemes available to help you get started. So let's get into it. Okay, so the first one is called the First Home Owner Grant. One of the most well-known grants for first-time buyers in Victoria is the First Home Owner Grant. As of now, the Victorian government offers a $10,000 grant for first-home buyers purchasing or building a home valued up to $750,000. If you're purchasing or building a home in a regional area, this grant increases to $20,000. So to be eligible for this, you must be a first-time home buyer. You must be purchasing or building a new home. So existing homes are not eligible. You must ensure the home's value is under $750,000. And you must live in the property as your principal residence for at least 12 months. So you can apply for this grant through your lender or directly through the State Revenue Office of Victoria. This financial assistance can be an excellent way to help you reduce your initial outlay on a home purchase. Okay, so the pros and cons of the First Home Owner Grant. The pros are that it provides substantial financial assistance to home buyers of $10,000 or $20,000, which is a large amount for first home buyers and for anyone really. The other pro is that it helps reduce the upfront cost of buying or building a home. It also encourages home ownership in regional areas with a higher grant amount. The cons are that it limits the purchasing to new homes. So it excludes existing properties, which may reduce your options, and in my argument, removes a lot of the best properties that you can purchase, which is a significant downside of the First Home Owner Grant, and something that you have to be really careful about. The other con is that it requires a home to be under $750,000, which is extremely restrictive in certain metropolitan markets, which again compromises the quality of the asset potentially. The last con is that there's strict conditions for living in the property as a principal place of residence for 12 months. So a lot of people will tend to try and buy something and then just rent it out. But if you get caught, you will lose the grant and you'll have to give that back, and you may be left with a property that you don't ideally want either. Now the second scheme is the First Home Loan Deposit Scheme. Now this scheme is a federal government program aimed at helping first home buyers enter the market with as little as a 5% deposit. Normally, buyers with less than a 20% deposit need to pay lender's mortgage insurance. But under this scheme, the government acts as a guarantor for the additional 15%, eliminating the need for lender's mortgage insurance. In Melbourne, the price cap for properties under this scheme is $800,000, and in regional Victoria, it's $500,000. Eligibility requirements include being an Australian citizen, earning no more than $125,000 for individuals, or $200,000 for couples. The other requirement is that you save 5% of the property's value. Spots for this scheme are limited and allocated on a yearly basis, so it's important to apply as early as possible if you're interested. The pros of the First Home Loan Deposit Scheme are that it allows buyers to enter the market with as little as 5% deposit. It saves thousands of dollars by eliminating the need for lender's mortgage insurance, which is compounded on top of your normal loan. So it is quite a significant amount. It's not just that small amount that comes at the start of the process. But this grant, it helps buyers in competitive markets like Melbourne get in. The cons are that there are very limited spots, so creating very high competition for eligibility. There are price caps, which may not align with the market and may make it difficult to buy in certain spots. And then the last one is that applicants must meet income caps. So it limits accessibility for higher earners, which may not always have been the case. So there might be first home buyers that have only just started earning good money that are wanting to purchase, and those are people that are limited from using this scheme. The third scheme is stamp duty exemptions and concessions. Stamp duty is one of the biggest upfront costs when buying a home, but in Victoria there are generous exemptions and concessions for first home buyers. For properties valued up to $600,000 or less, first home buyers are completely exempt from paying stamp duty. For properties valued between $600,000 and $750,000, there's a partial stamp duty concession based on a sliding scale. For example, if you're purchasing a home for $650,000, you'll receive a reduced stamp duty of almost $23,000 from the $34,000 to $11,000 approximately. You can find out more information on how this concession is calculated and tiered across those price ranges on the State Revenue Office of Victoria's website. So the pros and cons of the stamp duty exemption and concessions. So the first pro is that full exemption for properties under $600,000 significantly reduces the upfront costs. The second is that there's a partial concession for properties up to $750,000, which offers substantial savings as well further. The other thing is there's no need for separate applications, as this is applied during the property purchase process, which makes it a little bit more streamlined. The cons are that there's a sliding scale for concessions between that $600,000 and $750,000 mark, which can still leave a noticeable cost and might not be as big a saving as you were hoping. And then the final con as well is that it's not applicable to properties over $750,000, so it limits benefits for buyers in higher price brackets. And the big thing that I see with this is that there's no stamp duty under $600,000 or at $600,000 or below. So a lot of people are trying to purchase at that mark. And when we get around $600,000, people don't want to pay $1 more because they're going to be losing the savings. But the challenge here is that they could be missing out on a really good property by not paying that extra amount. And we have to think long term, because that's what I love to do. And in the long term, by paying that little bit more, could they be getting a property that's instead getting an annual growth rate of 7% instead of 5%? So are you missing out on a better property purely to save the extra, $10,000 or $20,000 up front? So they could be paying down the track. So you have to weigh it all up to come to the best solution for yourself. So the fourth one's the First Home Super Saver Scheme. So the First Home Super Saver Scheme is a federal initiative that helps first-time buyers save for a home deposit through superannuation. So under this scheme, you can make voluntary super contributions of up to $15,000 per year, up to a total of $30,000 a year, and then withdraw those contributions plus any associated earnings to put towards your deposit. The benefits of the First Home Super Saver Scheme are largely tax-based. So your contributions to your super are taxed at a lower rate, which is 15%, which can help you save more efficiently than through a regular savings account. When you withdraw these funds, they are taxed at a marginal rate minus a 30% tax offset, which can make a significant difference in the total amount saved. To be eligible, you must be a first home buyer, and you must intend to live in the home as your primary residence for at least 6 months in the first year of ownership. So the pros and cons of the First Home Super Saver Scheme. The first one is that it helps buyers save for a deposit faster due to lower tax rates on contributions. Earnings on the super contributions grow faster than regular savings accounts, and the tax offsets on withdrawals can increase overall savings. So those are some really good things. The cons though are that there are complex rules and limits on contributions, which is that up to $30,000 mark, which may not suit everyone's needs. Also, withdrawn funds are taxed at marginal rates with an offset, reducing the final payout. And the last thing is that contributions are capped annually at that $30,000 mark, so this may delay savings for a deposit because you can't put more in. The fifth scheme we should know about is the Victorian Homebuyer Fund. The Victorian Homebuyer Fund is a relatively new initiative by the Victorian Government designed to help buyers with a smaller deposit. Under this shared equity scheme, the government can contribute up to 25% of the purchase price of the property, reducing the need for a large deposit and lender's mortgage insurance. For example, if you've saved a 5% deposit, the government can cover up to 25%, allowing you to buy with only a 5% upfront cost. You still own the property, but the government holds a stake in it. which you can buy back over time. The price cap for homes under this scheme is $950,000 in Melbourne and Geelong and $600,000 in regional Victoria. The eligibility for the Homebuyer Fund includes a minimum of 5% deposit, and you have to be an Australian citizen or permanent resident. So the pros and cons for the Victorian Homebuyer Fund. So firstly, the first positive is that it reduces deposit requirements to as little as 5%. It eliminates the need for LMI, which can save you thousands of dollars over the course of the loan and at the start. It also allows buyers to enter the market sooner, even with limited savings. Now, the cons of the scheme is it is shared equity, which means that the government owns a stake in your property, which requires repayments to buy it back. And this is a position that some people are not very comfortable with, so it's something to consider before you get involved. The other con is that there's price caps. So in Melbourne, there was $950,000 price cap, as well as in Geelong. And then regionally, there's a $600,000 price cap. So that can really limit options on the type of property that you're looking to buy. And then finally, there is an ongoing financial implication until the government stake is fully repaid. So you have to consider that as well going into the future. You might not be too comfortable with that. So there you go. These grants and schemes, the first home buyer grant, the first home loan deposit scheme, stamp duty exemptions and concessions, first home super saver scheme, and the Victorian Homebuyer Fund, they all offer valuable financial assistance to first home buyers in Victoria. Understanding your eligibility for these programs and applying early can save you thousands of dollars and make home ownership more achievable. You have to understand the pros and cons of what you're getting yourself into. And a really big thing for me is about first home buyer grants is that these grants are often pushing first home buyers into properties, the exact properties that they shouldn't buy. And those ones I'm talking about are off the plan concessions, pushing people into buying apartments off the plan, or new builds that you're required to buy for first home buyer grants and new homes, which are often properties that are either in the last few years taking ages to build, or there's builders going bankrupt, which is difficult in itself. But then also those properties are not necessarily growing in value as well as established properties. And these people are getting pushed into those new styles of homes, which can be really challenging. That's why a lot of the clients I have will not tend to use these grants very much in regards to the ones that have limitations on buying new property. So that's something that you really need to consider. So look, that ends another episode of Property Ponderings. I hope this has given you a few small tips, as always, to make better property decisions. If you do want to discuss anything further from this podcast, or if you're looking for some tailored buying and renovating advice, please feel free to get in touch. My number is 0400 122081, or feel free to email me at craig@nickelbuyeradvisory.com.au. We'll chat again soon. Information provided in this podcast is for general information purposes only and does not constitute financial, legal or professional advice. While we aim to provide accurate and up-to-date information, every property transaction and investment is unique and should seek the advice of a qualified professional before making any financial decisions. The opinions expressed in this podcast are our own and are not a substitute for tailored advice from a financial advisor or a real estate professional. We encourage you to consult with a qualified expert who can address your specific needs and circumstances.